outside.
Sir, I said step outside, now. I said turn around, put your hands behind your back.
Tell me the charge, officer.
You're being detained for obstruction.
Good. Keep that recording. I am the chief of police, and you are violating my rights right now.
Look at this man. Blue suit, red tie, briefcase in hand. He is not running. He is not arguing. He is just standing there. And the officer behind this camera is about to grab him. $5 million. One encounter. One career ended. That number is real. And by the end of this video, you will understand every dollar of it. Here is what Officer Jason Harper did not know. This man, the one he is treating like a suspect, runs his entire department. Chief Malcolm Reed. His boss. His boss's boss. Harper had no idea. And that one assumption, made in under 4 seconds, ended his career and broke this city's budget. But here is the question nobody is asking. What happens to a department that cannot even recognize its own chief? That answer does not come until the end. And you need to stay for it. If this story matters to you, share it before you finish watching. And do not forget to subscribe. Let's go. It is the morning of an ordinary Tuesday. Malcolm Reed wakes up, puts on his suit, and drives to work. Not just any work, his department, his officers, his city. For 23 years, he has served that city. He started at the bottom. He climbed every rank. He made every sacrifice. And on this Tuesday morning, he is the chief of police. The man at the very top. Now here is what you need to understand about that title. It does not just mean seniority. It means every officer in that department answers to him. Every patrol route, every disciplinary hearing, every badge issued in that city has his authority behind it. Officer Jason Harper's badge included. So when Harper spots Malcolm Reed walking through a public space that Tuesday morning, he does not see any of that. He does not see the 23 years. He does not see the rank. He does not see the man who literally signs off on his continued employment. He sees a black man in a suit, and he decides that is enough reason to stop him. Harper approaches. His hand moves to his belt. His voice carries that specific tone. The one that says he has already decided how this interaction ends. Reed stops. He turns. He is calm. Completely calm. And that calm, that stillness, that trained professional composure, reads to Harper as defiance. So he escalates. He asks for identification. Not politely. With the weight of someone who expects immediate compliance, Reed reaches into his jacket. He pulls out his credentials. And for one brief second, Harper is still operating on assumption. He has not looked yet. He is still the man in control of this situation. He is still the authority here. Then he looks down. The ID fills his entire field of vision. Chief of Police, Malcolm Reed. The city seal. The rank. The photograph matching the face standing directly in front of him. Let that land for a second. The man Harper just cornered, the man he just spoke to like a suspect, the man he was preparing to physically detain, is the highest-ranking law enforcement officer in this city. Harper does not say anything. His hand, the one moving toward his belt, slows down. And right there, in that pause, in that silence, you can see the exact moment a career begins to collapse. But here is what makes this worse. Harper does not stand down. Not immediately. Because pride, the same pride that started this stop, does not disappear the second reality arrives. What he does next is what turns a bad mistake into a $5 million catastrophe. Every stop has a reason. That is the law. That is the rule every officer learns on day one of the academy. You do not stop a person without justification. You do not approach a citizen without cause. You write it down. You document it. You put your name on it. So what was Harper's reason? What did he write in that report? What justification did he put his badge behind on that Tuesday morning? Here is where it gets very uncomfortable. The report is nearly empty. Not thin, not vague, nearly empty. No traffic violation. No suspicious behavior documented. No noise complaint. No call from dispatch. No prior incident linking Reed to anything. The section asking for the reason for the stop has 4 words. Subject appeared out of place. That is it. That is the entire legal justification Harper offered for stopping the chief of police of his own city. Appeared out of place. Read that slowly. Let it sit. A black man in a suit, carrying a briefcase, walking through a public building in the city he has served for 23 years, was stopped because he appeared out of place. No law was broken. No threat was present. No call had been made. Harper saw him, made a decision, and acted on it. Now think about what that means legally. Because under the 4th Amendment, a stop without reasonable articulable suspicion is not just improper. It is unconstitutional. It is a rights violation the moment it begins. Every second after that first illegal approach is another second of liability stacking up against the city. And Harper kept going. He did not pause. He did not reconsider. He pushed forward with the confidence of someone who had done this before. Someone who had never been challenged. Someone who had learned, through experience, that his assumptions rarely had consequences. That pattern, that history, that absence of accountability, that is what Reed's attorneys argued built this encounter. It was not one bad day. It was a habit, documented, ignored, and eventually paid for by every taxpayer in that city. $5 million is not just a settlement number. It is the price of a culture that looked the other way every time Harper filed a report this thin. But here is the thing about a man like Malcolm Reed. He did not just stand there and absorb it. He knew exactly what was happening. He knew his rights. He knew the law. And he knew how to stay composed while Harper kept digging his own grave deeper. Watch the footage carefully. Not Harper. Watch Reed. Every time Harper raises his voice, Reed lowers his. Every time Harper steps forward, Reed stays still. Every time Harper's hands move, Reed's hands remain exactly where they are. Visible. Open. Controlled. This is not accident. This is training. 23 years of law enforcement teaches you something most people never learn. The person who stays calm in a confrontation controls the confrontation. Reed knows this. He has taught this. He has probably stood in a classroom and said these exact words to young officers, one of whom is now standing 3 feet in front of him, completely unraveling. Here is where it gets psychologically fascinating. A body language consultant reviewing this footage flagged something specific, something that most viewers miss on first watch. Every time Reed speaks quietly, Harper steps closer, not away, closer. That detail matters more than it sounds. Because in confrontation psychology, a calm opponent does not register as safe to an aggressive mind. It registers as a threat. The aggression has nowhere to land. It just bounces back. So the aggressive person escalates, trying to provoke a reaction that justifies the energy they have already committed to. Harper needs Reed to react. Reed refuses. And that refusal, that absolute unshakable composure, is driving Harper toward a decision he cannot walk back from. Watch his shoulders in the footage. They rise with every exchange. His jaw tightens. His responses get shorter. His personal space boundary keeps shrinking as his frustration grows. He is not policing anymore. He is performing. For himself. For the camera he has forgotten is recording. For some internal audience that told him a man like Reed should not be this difficult to intimidate. But Reed is not difficult. Reed is simply present. Eyes forward. Voice even. Posture straight. The kind of stillness that only comes from a man who knows exactly who he is and exactly what is happening around him. And somewhere in that stillness is something Harper cannot name, but absolutely feels. Dignity that does not require his permission to exist. That is what is making this worse. Not defiance, not aggression, just quiet, immovable dignity. Harper cannot process it, so he reaches for the only tool he has left. He calls for backup. And the second that radio call goes out, this situation stops being a bad encounter between two men. It becomes an official incident, with witnesses, with timestamps, with records that will outlast both of their careers. Harper keys his radio, and his voice cracks. Not dramatically, not obviously, just enough. A slight break on the first syllable. The kind of sound a voice makes when the body is running on adrenaline it was not supposed to need. The dispatcher responds. Harper gives the location. His words are clipped, controlled on the surface. But underneath them, something is shifting. He is no longer certain. And that uncertainty is the most dangerous moment in any confrontation. Because uncertain people with authority do not slow down. They speed up. They double down. They take physical action to reassert the control they can feel slipping. Watch what happens next. Harper ends the radio call. He turns back to Reed. He takes one step forward. Then another. And then he says it. I am going to need you to step back. To Reed, the chief of police, standing calmly in a public building he has every right to be in, being told to step back by an officer whose badge he has the authority to permanently remove. The instruction makes no legal sense. Reed is not advancing. Reed has not moved. There is no threat to justify the command. It is not policing. It is posturing. It is a man using the language of authority because the actual substance of authority has already left the building. But here is what that moment costs. The second Harper issues that instruction, he has made physical contact inevitable. Because if Reed does not comply, Harper has already decided what happens next. You can see it in the set of his body. The way his weight shifts forward. The way his right hand drops. This is no longer a conversation. Reed knows it. Harper knows it, the camera knows it, and somewhere in this building, at least 2 other people are about to find out. Because backup is coming, and with backup comes witnesses. With witnesses, come statements. With statements come investigations. With investigations come findings that cannot be buried in a thin report with 4 words on it. Harper made a mistake when he stopped Reed. He made it worse when he refused to stand down after seeing the credentials. But this moment, this instruction to step back, this is the moment that made the lawsuit inevitable. This is where $5 million is born. The question is not whether Harper is about to make physical contact. He is. The question is who is about to walk through that door behind him. The backup officers are already moving when the name hits the radio. Not Harper's second call. The first one. The location request. That is the one that goes out across the channel. That is the one every officer on duty in that area hears simultaneously. Routine call. Officer requesting backup. Public building. No threat level specified. 2 officers respond. They are close. Maybe 90 seconds out. They start moving without hesitation. Then dispatch does something unusual. Dispatch asks Harper to confirm the name of the individual being detained. Harper answers. And then there are 3 full seconds of radio silence. 3 seconds does not sound like much. Count them out right now. 1, 2, 3. On an active radio channel, 3 seconds of silence is not nothing. It is everything. It means someone on the other end has stopped, processed, looked at something, checked something, felt something shift beneath their feet. Because the name Harper just said out loud is not an unknown name. It is the name on the department letterhead. It is the name at the bottom of every policy memo. It is the name every officer in that building has seen in the chain of command since the day they were hired. The responding officers hear it too. Their pace changes. You can tell from the footage. The casual trot of a routine backup call becomes something faster, more deliberate, the kind of movement that happens when the stakes of a situation reorganize themselves in real time. They are no longer responding to a standard detainment. They are responding to a career-ending event. They just do not know yet whose career it is. Harper does not hear any of this the way they hear it. He is still forward-facing, still locked in, still operating inside the logic of an encounter he started and cannot find a way to finish cleanly. Reed has still not raised his voice. Reed has still not moved without instruction. Reed is still just standing there, watching, waiting, with the patience of a man who has spent 2 decades understanding exactly how these situations resolve themselves. He knows backup is coming. He knows what they will see when they arrive. He knows the moment this ends. Harper does not know any of that yet. He is about to find out in the worst possible way, because the door behind him is about to open. The supervisor walking through it knows Malcolm Reed by name, by rank, by reputation. The door opens. Supervisor Lieutenant Dana Caldwell steps through first. One of the responding officers is directly behind her. The second follows a step after that. Caldwell takes in the room in under 2 seconds. That is what supervisors are trained to do. Read the environment before speaking. Identify the principles. Assess the threat level. Establish the hierarchy. She sees Harper. Back to the door. Weight forward. Right hand low. Then she sees who Harper is facing. And she stops. Not a slow stop. A full stop. The kind of stop that happens when your brain receives information your body has not yet processed. Her mouth opens slightly, closes, opens again, and then she says 2 words. Chief Reed, not a question, a recognition, immediate, instinctive, the automatic response of someone who has sat in departmental briefings and looked at the nameplate on that office door 100 times. Watch Harper in this exact moment. This is the slow motion frame the footage will be replayed on for years. His right hand, the one that has been drifting toward his belt for the last 4 minutes, stops moving. Just stops, mid-motion, hanging there, like the signal from his brain got cut off halfway through the instruction. His shoulders drop 3 inches in 1 second. His weight shifts backward. The entire physical architecture of his aggression just collapses in real time. Right there on camera. Right there in front of his supervisor, his colleagues, and the man he has spent the last several minutes trying to intimidate. Reed does not say anything. He does not need to. Caldwell looks at Harper. The look does not require translation. It is the look of someone calculating damage in real time. Personal damage, departmental damage, financial damage. Harper opens his mouth. Caldwell raises one hand slightly. The universal signal for stop talking. You have said enough. You have done enough. The room is completely quiet. And in that quiet, something remarkable happens. The power in this space does not shift gradually. It does not negotiate. It snaps. Instantly. Completely. Irrevocably. The man who walked in as a subject is now the highest authority in the room. The man who walked in as the authority is now the one whose career is under review. That moment, that snap, is what $5 million looks like before it becomes a check. But the story does not end with a look and a silence. Because what happened in this building did not just violate department policy. It violated the Constitution. Twice. Here is the part most people skip. They watch the confrontation. They feel the satisfaction when it collapses. They share the clip. They move on. But the law is where this story gets its teeth. The law is what turns a bad encounter into an unavoidable reckoning. The law is what makes $5 million not just possible, but necessary. So let us walk through exactly what was violated. In plain language. No jargon. The Fourth Amendment first. It is simple. It says the government cannot seize a person without reasonable articulable suspicion that a crime has been or is being committed. Not a feeling. Not an instinct, not 4 words on a report that say appeared out of place. Actual specific, articulable facts. Harper had none. The moment he approached Reed with the intent to detain, he triggered a Fourth Amendment violation. Not maybe, not arguably. Definitively. The footage timestamps it. The empty report confirms it. The legal standard is clear. That is violation 1. Now the 14th Amendment. This one is broader. It guarantees equal protection under the law. It says the government cannot treat citizens differently based on race. It means a black man in a suit in a public building is entitled to the exact same presumption of innocence as anyone else standing in that same space. Harper's stop report has 4 words. Ask yourself honestly, would those 4 words have been written about a white man in the same suit, carrying the same briefcase in the same building? That question is not rhetorical. It is a legal argument. Reed's attorneys made it. They made it with evidence. They made it by pulling Harper's prior stop records. They made it by showing a pattern. A documented, time-stamped, departmentally ignored pattern of racially disproportionate stops. That pattern is what elevated this from a single incident to a civil rights case. That pattern is what made the city's legal team look at the footage and the records and the prior complaints and tell the city council that fighting this case in court would cost more than settling it. $5 million was not a punishment. It was a calculation. And here is what that calculation means for every taxpayer in that city. Every person who has never met Malcolm Reed. Every person who had nothing to do with what Harper did that Tuesday morning. They paid for it, because the system that produced Harper, protected Harper, and ignored every warning sign before this moment belongs to all of them. The settlement is signed. The check is written. The amount is final. Jason Harper's badge number is retired. Not reassigned. Not transferred to another officer in another precinct. Retired. Pulled from the system, attached permanently to a personnel file that ends with 2 words. Terminated. For cause. His locker is empty. His access codes are deactivated. His name no longer appears on any active roster in that department. That is what accountability looks like when it finally arrives. Now let us talk about the $5 million. Because that number deserves more than a headline. The settlement covers several things. It covers compensatory damages for the constitutional violations Reed experienced directly. It covers the legal fees accumulated over the course of the investigation. It covers a mandatory independent review of departmental stop and detain policies. It covers the implementation of new oversight procedures that Harper's own supervisors should have put in place years before this Tuesday ever happened. $5 million is not one bad day. It is the invoice for a system that failed repeatedly and quietly until it could not anymore. Here is the number that sits underneath the $5 million. The number nobody leads with. Prior to this incident, Harper had received 3 separate internal complaints related to racially disproportionate stops. 3. All documented. All reviewed. All closed without disciplinary action. 3 complaints. 0 consequences. 1 Tuesday morning. $5 million. That math is not complicated. It is just honest. The city did not settle because they believed Reed deserved justice. Cities do not operate on belief. They operate on risk assessment. They settled because the footage was clear. The pattern was documented. The legal exposure was undeniable. Fighting it in court would have cost more, and revealed more, and damaged more. The settlement was the cheaper option. Let that sit for a second. Justice in this case arrived. But it arrived through a financial calculation, not a moral one. Harper did not just lose a job. He lost a career, a pension pathway, and any future in law enforcement in this state. The termination for cause follows him. It is permanent. It is public record. The city lost $5 million of public money. Money that was budgeted for roads, schools, community programs. Reed gained a legal victory. He gained a public acknowledgement of what was done to him. But Malcolm Reed had something most people in his position never have. He had power. He had resources. He had a name that dispatch recognized in 3 seconds of silence. Most people do not have any of that. And that is the question this story leaves open. Malcolm Reed walked up to that podium alone. No attorney beside him. No department spokesperson managing his words. No prepared statement filtered through a city communications office. Just him. The same man who stood in that building on a Tuesday morning with his hands visible and his voice low and his dignity fully intact. He looked into the cameras. And he said this: "I did not pursue this because of what happened to me. I pursued this because of what happens to people who cannot pursue it themselves." No applause. No follow-up question. Just that. Hanging in the air. That is the line that closes everything. Because here is what this story was actually about from the beginning. It was never really about Malcolm Reed. It was about what it took to get justice. It was about the specific combination of credentials, composure, rank, resources, and recognition that had to be present before a system would hold itself accountable. Reed had all of it. The badge, the title, the name dispatch knew in 3 seconds, the attorneys who understood how to build a pattern case, the platform to stand at a podium and speak without being dismissed. He had everything, and it was still that hard. Think about what that means for everyone who has none of it. The person with no title behind their name, no 23 years of institutional standing, no settlement fund, no press conference invitation, just a Tuesday morning, and an officer who decided they appeared out of place. That person does not get a podium. That person files a complaint that gets closed without disciplinary action. 3 times. Reed's case changed policy in that department. It retired a badge number. It cost the city $5 million and forced a public reckoning. But it did not change the fact that accountability in this system is not equally available. It is not distributed by need. It is distributed by leverage. And most people do not have leverage. That is the loop this story opened in the very first second. Not who Harper was stopping, but what it would take to stop Harper. Now you know. If this video made you feel something real, do not let it end here. Hit the subscribe button, drop a like and share it. Comment what you think should change. Because the only thing more powerful than one man with a badge and a camera is a million people who refuse to look away.